What is this? Huh? Tell me. Frisbee? What is this trash? Or is it trash at all? We shall see. I got this laptop for $20 on eBay. If you found it thrifting, you might pay 10 bucks. But from what I've seen so far, this was a uniquely low price for this laptop. It's the Dell Latitude 3380. More recently, I've been seeing it for around $50, but I saw about 10 of these all listed by the same seller for around $20, and I just couldn't help but grab one. But did I spend $20 on e-waste? No! I refuse to admit defeat, and being the used PC fiend that I am, I know we can find a purpose. And the first bit of good news right off the bat, judging by the size of this, I can tell it's perfectly compatible with ChairDesk, The Awakening. Never gone for long, Return of ChairDesk. Alright, let's break it down. The computer itself isn't much to celebrate. Dell Latitude 3380. This has a Pentium 4515U. That is a not so awe-inspiring 2 cores, 4 threads, running at 2.3 gigahertz. The RAM isn't terrible. It's DDR4 2133 megahertz, and we have 8 gigabytes. It didn't come with a power adapter, but I have one laying around, and you can get a universal laptop adapter type thing for like $10 to $15, so that's not a huge deal when it comes to these. Not so impressive, but even at these specs, we might still be set for one of my favorite uses for older computers, retro emulation. I'm pretty convinced that we can run at least earlier gen consoles on this device, like NES and Genesis. Now, this laptop wasn't quite as cheap as the piece of toast I usually run those systems on. Don't start. You know you can run NES on a piece of toast, just don't start. Not again. But let's drop in our hard drive and see if we'll be stuck with a knockaround first gen emulator, which is cool in its own right, or if we'll be able to push it further and maybe do some PlayStation or PSP. Oh, and don't worry, the laptop has been inspected. Also, we'll do a quick Windows install and try some basic web browsing just because of why not. Even though I don't think I would be recommending this to anyone for that purpose, especially because I seem to have gotten an unusually low price on it. I skipped some of the toast-based systems and jumped right into Nintendo 64, Ocarina of Time, and I had no issues whatsoever playing this game. You can't see it down in the corner, but it's 100% on the frame rate. I'm not seeing any dips there. Well, occasionally down to like 98, 99, but I'm not seeing any differences in gameplay. It's running well. I messed around with some other N64 games and it seems pretty solid, so at least it's not constrained to like NES and Genesis. It can do those, which is cool, but we can get some N64 gameplay out of it also. Then I jumped up to PSP, Lord of Arcana, and this game also was running very well. Unfortunately though, right around here is where we're going to max out once we do a little upscaling, and it's still running flawlessly at 2 times, but moving beyond that is where we start to see problems. PlayStation was hit or miss. Most of the games were pretty well. Kind of surprised me because normally the 2 times upscaled PSP is as demanding as PlayStation 1, but in this case it struggles with some of the more intense PlayStation 1 games. But it seems like N64 and PSP are about as good as we're going to do, which again isn't bad considering it was $20 and it'll make a pretty good and portable knock-around emulation system. I then went ahead and dropped in another hard drive to do a Windows install, and we'll just try some basic web browsing. And I will say, one good thing I've noticed so far is it didn't ask me for a key during the install process, which means that there is a Windows activation key tied to the motherboard. Also, the command for the key retrieval worked on this system, which you're probably familiar with if you watched 2 videos ago. So at the very least, we got a legitimate Windows activation key for $20, which isn't bad. Could be used on another device, and most likely will be, since I'm probably going to keep this primarily is an emulation system to mess around with. Overall, was this a score of any kind? For $20, kind of, maybe. Like I said previously, I wouldn't be recommending this system to anybody unless maybe you can find it for 20 bucks and you want something to mess around with. But anyway, that is all for this video. Once again, to everyone who's watching, I really appreciate you tuning in. That's awesome. Thank you. And I will catch you later.